the holy grail is not just more clients, because more clients if they're not the right clients, if they don't pay you, if you're not set up for them, they will kill your practice. So more clients isn't the answer. More of the right clients is the answer. And a right client has to have more than a pulse and a checkbook, right? It has to be somebody that is your person, which is why it's the problem you solve and the people you solve it for. But then instead of clients taking energy from you, you're getting energy by working with the clients. You're doing exactly the work you're meant to do. You're getting paid what you're worth. You can actually look forward to going to the office.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Answering Legal's Everything Except the Law podcast. I'm your host, Nick Worker. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where we share expert advice on all the parts of running a law firm that attorneys weren't exactly trained for back in law school. Now, we know a lot of our listeners have big things that they want to accomplish in 2021. So for this episode, we've brought in an attorney and executive business coach, Doug Brown, to share some of his best tips and insights. Doug is the Chief Learning Officer at Summit Success International, where he teaches attorneys how to grow their practices, make more money, and live rich, full, and balanced lives. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited to have you here. So can you tell some of our listeners about you, your background, and some of the work that you do with attorneys so that they can get kind of a better understanding?
Yeah. Who is this guy, right?
Yeah.
So I like to start with my passion is I'm now getting to do the work I was meant to do and helping lawyers make more money in less time so they can actually have a life they deserve and the kind of life we thought we were going to get when we went to law school, if we thought about that. And I get to work on everything that it takes to run a law business. So we spend a lot of time on marketing and time mastery because those are things that lawyers care about, and it's a big deal. There's so much more to that than running a business, like managing people and money and technology and processes, and then figuring out, I don't even talk about work-life balance. I talk about work-life integration because that's really what we have, and all the things it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, because that was really my story. I've done all these things and I know what works because I've found a lot of things that didn't work. So I get to be a guide for lawyers. And I started off as an associate at a big law firm in Connecticut. That's where I live now. And it was a great firm. I had a great mentor. I got to learn a lot of things, got to go to court, realized court wasn't my thing. But it wasn't long before I started to see the reality, even at an excellent firm, of what life is like as a business of law. And I thought, I don't know that that's where I want to be. I don't know that I want to be a partner in a big law firm. I was thinking to myself, there's got to be more. I want to do more. And I didn't know what that was, honestly. I spent a long time trying to figure that out. And then it started me on a journey where I really got to create a life that I wanted, even though I wasn't really clear where I was going to wind up when I started. So over the next 20 years, I got to be in-house counsel for a growing company, which got me onto the business side of things, like my entrepreneurial roots, where I became a kind of a business builder and a fixer for a global business. And I saw all the things we didn't learn in CLEs or law school about what it takes to do marketing and sales and manage people and run IT projects. And then after a long time there, I got to go teach that stuff. The law degree is a terminal degree in academia. So I got to become a program chair for the MBA program at the Malcolm Baldrige School of Business. I taught leadership, finance, marketing, and got into business coaching. And I got recruited to become the executive director of the Connecticut Bar Association, where I had 10,000 lawyers as bosses. That was an adventure. Got them back on track. And then I got recruited to become the chief operating officer of a 21-store, fourth-generation jewelry chain and help them make the transition to the next generation. Along the way, I became a Book Yourself Solid certified coach and a professional speaker. And now I get to work with Walt Hampton, the founder of Summit Success, and help lawyers find their own path, kind of using the path that I did over the last 20 years.
I think that gives me personally a lot of hope because I've worked here for a majority of my life, and really all of my professional career has been spent here, and that gives me sort of a modicum of hope that like I can go do crazy other things, because you seem to have jam packed a lot of experience into what seems to be such a short time. Um, but I want to go back to you said you don't really talk about work-life balance. You talk about work-life integration. And I think more than any other profession, the practice of law is just tedious, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. It's just there's always a lot to do. There's a lot of research to be done. There's a lot of writing to be done. There's a lot of filing. It's very procedural. And so I mean that in a very literal, you know, not a bad connotation sense, that it's very tedious. I have a friend who tells me about like what he gets done in a day, and it took him like 12 hours to do this one thing. I'm like,
Mhm.
that is just and big law takes so many people to get so much done, because that's just the nature of practicing law. So I think this concept of time management is really lost on a lot of attorneys, because that's just it's almost innate in the practice of law, is that you have to spend this much time doing this in order to get X product. Um, so I want to talk about time management with you, and I know what I'm trying to say here is that it's an area where I see a lot of lawyers end up struggling. So what are the most common drains on attorney time that you've noticed? And I want to talk more about this work-life integration. So if you could explain more about that.
Sure, sure. I don't know where to start. I mean, the lawyer's relationship with time has been messed up for maybe all time. And that's because it's all about racing the clock. Your value is attached to the clock. You have billable hours. And from a business perspective, there's not even an incentive to be efficient, because if you're efficient, you take money out of your pocket because you're not billing by the hour. And it sets up a conflict with the people who need value from us because they want us to be fast. So I think the real struggle with time is our relationship with time, and this thought that we can somehow manage it. We can somehow make it go faster, or we can outrun it, or we can, as you said, Nick, make things go faster. And the truth is that we can't manage time. All we can do, because it happens, right? The clock happens. There's nothing we can do to make it go faster or slow it down. Um, but we can manage our relationship with time, the decisions we're making about our time, and how we manage our energy around time. So, the struggle that I see more and more, and 2020 was even on steroids about this, is just the distractions. Everyone's in a constant state of continuous partial attention. So many things are clamoring to get into our heads and in front of our eyes and in front of our ears. That's a huge drain to process that, and to process the stuff that comes up ordinarily in the lawyers' heads. A lot of them our colleagues are really smart and creative people. So how do you manage all of that information and prioritize, decide what's important? How to deal with your always on email box. I mean, we could talk for 2 hours about email, and that's before you even talk about texts and social media and Twitter and Instagram and all those other things. And then we think we're really much faster than we are. When I work with private coaching clients and we spend a lot of time on time management, I give them a challenge. I say, I give them a little template and I say, keep track of how long things take you for the week. So what did you how long did you expect it to take? And how long did it actually take? And why? And almost every single time, we're seeing that it just took longer than I thought it would, even if I wasn't interrupted. And then we find that interruptions happen. And sometimes they're really good interruptions, and sometimes they're self-inflicted. So that's the common drain, is all the information trying to get in the top of the funnel and trying to make sense of it. And then other things make it worse, right? They can't delegate. We think multitasking actually works. I remember when I first started practicing in a small firm, you walk into a lawyer's office and there'd be stacks of paper, like from the floor up to like the level of the desk. And he would be, don't worry, I know where everything is. Well, Today, we've replaced that paper with digital paper. Sometimes not so much. So, and the whole work-life integration is about boundaries. The reason I like to talk about that is balance is almost a static concept, right? For you to be balanced, you've got to kind of be stopped and balancing between 2 points. And I think the work for lawyers is much more dynamic. So you're not trying to achieve perfect balance. You're trying to find a way that you are integrating, especially now working from home, the idea that, okay, I'm working now, and then I can slide out of that and go do something with my kids. And then I can slide back in, as opposed to this hard division of I'm either at work or I'm not. It's a little more of a challenge to do that, but that's kind of reality these days.
Yeah. I have this sort of inner turmoil, right? Because what I do, the nature of what I do is I sell a service that allows you to pick up phone calls from new and existing clients 24 hours a day in perpetuity. And to a lot of people, we can preach that as, you know, it's a quality of life thing, right? You don't have to answer the phone yourself after hours. You've always got somebody backing you up, but we send you those messages instantly and you become much more reachable, and more people are going to want to hire you just based on the nature of you having somebody who represents your business answer the phone and do a legal intake, all that stuff. And I often wonder if that's a detriment to people, because I have no way of actually analyzing the amount of new clients that my customers will call back after hours, because it happens outside of my system. But it's just funny because it's like you said, nowadays there really is no balance. Like, even for myself, I don't go home and shut off my email and shut off my phone. And things happen. This is, a 24-hour business. So sometimes I have to make changes on the fly too. Sometimes I get emails at night. Sometimes I have to take my work home with me just to have a meeting with someone on the West Coast. So it is becoming a lot more normal that we have to not really find a divide, but make the transitions easier so that we don't. And I had the burnout ladies, I call them the legal burnout ladies, but I had them on the last episode, and we were talking about this. Like, it becomes joyless at a certain point. So we never want to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of it for me in my, in my inner circle groups, the people in my tribe. We were talking about that this week about, what is the thing that breaks your heart that motivates you? They asked me about why I do what I do. And it's that was part of the answer is I think lawyers are great people. We do really important work. And as you pointed out earlier, the work can be monotonous, and it's important and it's detail oriented. And it's incredibly exhausting. It's underappreciated. Clients don't really want to pay. Staff don't really, there's just so much negativity. And the thing that breaks my heart is somebody can go through their whole career and never find a way to get the clients they actually like working with, never figure out how to be there for their kids when their kids want to have a story read at night. I don't want anybody to look back 20 years down the road and say, oh my gosh, what if I had only, because that was my story. And I found a way to navigate it, I think pretty well, but it's, burnout just comes with the territory. And if we don't find a way kind of as a profession to bring some joy back into what we do, and monetary satisfaction, right? So we can support ourselves and our businesses, because most lawyers are in very small firms of 5 or less. Then lawyers won't have the time to participate and be a part of society, which society desperately needs right now. So there has to be this way. And you talk about, I've had clients who won't create the structure in their lives that they need to work. They're forever distracted, and they're fearful. What if I don't answer the phone? What if I don't stop what I'm doing and answer the phone? And I said, well, if you were in court, you wouldn't answer the phone. If you were in a client meeting, you wouldn't answer the phone. So there's got to be a way. And I think the service that you described is very helpful for that, as long as they have a routine. So even though you're pinging them as soon as it comes in, they've got the skills and the structure to say, it's okay that I don't respond to that the second my computer dings. You know, when I teach email management, it's like, you don't walk out to your mailbox once every 15 minutes to look for mail, but that's what we do on our computers. So a lot of the time management is about structure, and it's important because I think lawyers deserve much better lives than many of them are experiencing. So yeah, money and time, there are means to have the better life.
I definitely agree with you, and I'm definitely guilty of the email thing. I sit here and I have like one of those wide desktop screens. Sorry, buddy. And on the left side, I usually keep up my email so that if anybody tries to reach me, you know, I can respond. But it's exhausting, and it's very interruptive to what I'm doing, you know. And I think it's the Clio Legal's trends report that said it takes 15 minutes to like re-immerse yourself back into what you were doing once you've experienced an interruption.
It's at least 15. It's often more like 25.
Yeah, and that's a monumental loss of time. I wouldn't say a waste of time, but you know, I think that we could all be more efficient if we're not just checking our emails, like you said. So I'm surprised, but I'm also not shocked to hear that one of the things you have to teach lawyers how to do is manage their emails. I think that's,
Well,
it seems like such an easy thing. It's just an email.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I guess when email started, it was easy, but lawyers are service people, right? They want, at their heart, they really want to help people, and they're afraid of missing out on an opportunity. And so those things together mean that they feel like they have to respond right this second. And honestly, clients demand right this second stuff. And so there's got to be a way to deal with that. It's not just, it's information overload, honestly. And it's creating structure and routines that you're comfortable with to say, okay, I can sprint on this thing. I have a very specific objective for the next 45 minutes, and I'm going to shut myself down. I don't have any notifications on any device except for just a couple, but definitely not on your computer. And I'm going to sprint and get this done. And then I'm going to pop up for air. I'm going to check my email and other things. And then I'm going to go sprint again. Because when you're intentional about that, just like you would be if you're going into a client meeting or court, you start to create the structure. And I also, when I teach time management, we talk about putting your highest energy tasks in the highest energy part of the day. And where most people mess up is like, I'm a morning person. The very last thing I should do is check email in the morning. I'm deciding the night before, what are my top 3 things? And I'm doing them first because that's when my energy is best. And oftentimes we're wasting those hours on the menial stuff. And so we're saving our thinking work for 2:00 in the afternoon when there's no brain cells left.
I feel very personally challenged by this in a good way. I think what you were saying before about underestimating or overestimating, is it over or under? Anyway,
well, it's both. It's overestimating our ability to get stuff done and underestimating how long it takes.
I'm overestimating my ability to get things done, right? So I think, I could get this done in 45 minutes, but it really takes me an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And the amount of distractions that I allow to happen, you know, maybe bog that down even more. So I wonder how efficient I could really be if and to bring up your last point too, like I am not a morning person. I have one boss who's in this building, and every morning he likes to make fun of me because I try so hard to be happy and jolly in the morning, and I am just not a morning person. I need what I consider like 300 milligrams of caffeine, at least 3 cups of coffee. I need at least that. So by 11 or 12, I am like raring to go. And that's when I have my highest energy, is probably from like 12 to 3. And then 4 to 5, I'm available. I've usually gotten a lot done, and I respond to people and stuff like that. But I really wonder, about this concept of time management. Like if I could be even better, because I'm definitely overestimating my own ability to manage my time. And
Yeah.
I truthfully think that if I feel that way, then other people could too. So I definitely would encourage people to reach out to you and receive this sort of coaching, because to me that it's something we don't even think about, right? It's just like, oh, I'm going through my day, I'm working, but you don't consciously plan it like that.
Well, yeah, and it's not hard to do, but it's so easy to, like Tony Robbins says, to should all over ourselves. I should be faster. It should not take me this long. I should not get distracted. Well, the fact is that all that stuff happens. And so the other problem that lawyers have with time management and marketing, to be honest, like most of us, our inner critic is brutal with us. We say things and think things about ourselves we would never even imagine thinking about another person. And so when we screw up at something, that's going to happen. When we have a day we don't manage time, we get so brutal with ourselves that it's very difficult to recover. So part of the whole mastery of time, and I like to talk about mastery because mastery is a never ending process. Management is like a pass fail kind of thing. So in the path of mastery, you have to get that you're going to have great days and moments, and you're going to have moments that stink. And that's just all part of the process, and to give yourself a break a little bit. Because the more you beat yourself up, the more you freeze up, and the worse it gets.
That's really true. And something you might not believe about me, but this is very true. I promise this is true. I used to be a competitive weightlifter. It's called Olympic weightlifting. I was never getting anywhere near the Olympics, but that's one of my favorite pastimes that I had ever had. And it's easy to get caught up when you go to the gym every day and you lift weights like this, and they're heavy and they're complicated movements. And so you have to do things right, and it's a lot of repetitions to make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself or drop the bar because it's above your head.
Yeah.
So like think clean and jerk and snatch and stuff like that, if you've ever seen that in the Olympics. And it's so easy to get caught up in, well, today I couldn't lift heavier than I did yesterday, so I must not be doing something well. And today I'm going to try and really, really overexert myself and have no energy for tomorrow. And it's so easy to not even see the progress in that. So I think this was such a cool segue too, is something you recently wrote about, that I was just reading too, is
Thank
you
you.
wrote about, that you wrote about the importance of celebrating successes and how doing so can reduce stress. And I can kind of see where you're going with this, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it from you. Is what does celebrating these little triumphs do for you, and how is it a valuable practice for lawyers?
That's a great question, because when we do our annual planning process, we start asking, well, what did you celebrate? And then what will you celebrate? And almost every time you put your hand on your head and say, I didn't do anything to celebrate last year or that thing, because we check things off our list. All right, what's next? I expected that to happen, or that should have happened, so I'm not going to celebrate it. And then there's the whole, well, maybe I'm not worthy of celebrating. And the problem is if you don't, I'm not a brain scientist, but I like to read what they write, is it starts to affect the chemicals of your brain if you don't give yourself moments where you can stop and appreciate what's happening and recognize what's happening. And when you have that little celebration, you get a little dopamine hit and you start to feel better. And, it doesn't have to be a big celebration. It can just be at the end of the day, taking a moment to reflect that these good things happened today. It could be part of a gratitude practice. But that if you continue to grind and you don't take a moment to recognize and celebrate, whether it was a win at a hearing, or you had a great experience with a client, or somebody said thank you, or a staff member went out of their way to help, or you had a great evening with the children, if you don't take a stop to recognize that and celebrate that it happened, you're going to go through 10, 20 years and wonder, what the heck? And the science of it is taking that moment to celebrate that does give us a little bit of a chemical lift in a good way. And you'll want more of it, and you'll do it again and again. So it doesn't have to be a great big celebration like you're going on a trip, but just stopping to say, yeah, that was good. I appreciate that. Um, I got a great, I asked one of my clients, I said, what was your last 6 months like with me? How did it work? And I got this lovely email about how her practice is better, but her mental state is better. Her mind, she's more relaxed. She's more confident in her relationship with money. She's not taking on clients she shouldn't take. And she feels better about her practice. Her relationship with her husband's better. And I'm just looking at that, just celebrating that for a minute. Like, that was remarkable. I mean, she came to me for time management, and look at these other things that we're doing. And I didn't prompt her for that. I just said, what was it like? So lawyers who even ask their clients that and get that kind of feedback from themselves, that's something to celebrate. There's a lot to celebrate every day, even in a pandemic, if we can just focus on it. The problem is, as a society and as lawyers, especially, we're skeptical, and our receptors are much more tuned into negative than they are to positive. And to the point where sometimes it's just not cool to even admit that something was possibly positive. And you're somehow stupid if you think that positive things happen. And that's just a self-defeating game.
Yeah, and I like the concept of celebrating things, and not to like toot my own horn, but I like to celebrate things, not for the reason that I've ever been able really to put to words like you are, but I just feel like if I'm doing something and I've succeeded, or somebody on my team does something and succeeds, I try to be that person who celebrates them. So if anybody brings me something, really of creative value, I'll be like, wow, this is so awesome. This is going to be such a great campaign. People are really going to enjoy this. They're going to respond to this. This is just awesome. I love it. And that moment of appreciation to me is like what celebration is about. And I was just teasing my wife. She's turning 30 very, very soon. Too soon for her. Let's put it that way. And so there's not a lot to do. It's a pandemic. We can't really go anywhere. And I'm trying to find small ways to celebrate her. And there's also this meme that's going around. It's in a book. And I got to find whatever book this is. And it says, you can fascinate a woman with a piece of cheese. And I sent it to her. And I was like, this is how I'm going to appreciate you. I'm going to give you a piece of cheese for your birthday. But it's like you said, it doesn't have to be a trip. It doesn't have to be, we're going to Disney World, It could be as simple as taking a moment to appreciate the good thing that just happened.
Yeah, and the common theme here, Nick, is, especially when it comes around time management and time mastery, is giving yourself these go-to routines and these processes. And so if part of your routine is a gratitude practice at the end of the day, just to stop and say, I'm grateful for the fact that my clients let me help them. I'm grateful for, my wife, and won't kill me when I suggest that she get cheese. Those are things that having those routines, especially when there's so much going on, to be able to go back to that routine really provides a lot of certainty. There's in this world, people are pretty afraid, even if they don't want to admit it. And fear is something that freezes us up. Mm-hmm. But if we can create a little bit of safety with a routine, a little sense of normalcy, then we get some freedom to navigate, freedom to operate. And that's where we talk about time mastery, and even things like the strategies are simple. Implementation isn't so easy, but even just saying no to things that don't serve you anymore, and how to do that in a way that you're not negative and not perceived as a bad person for saying no. Because lawyers are not surprised. Our clients might not believe this, but lawyers aren't great at saying no. They're much better at taking on more than they can handle.
I have seen that firsthand. And also, I want to state for the record, my wife would never kill me if I suggested that she could have a piece of cheese.
Okay, good.
She would, every time I would offer, she's going to accept.
Okay, good. I feel much better for you now.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. But I want to talk about marketing, right? And I think this is one of those things that lawyers are always looking for help with marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny to me. So I always tell people this. I'm the chat guy on our website. Now I have it going on my phone, so it's text messaging. It's with this new company we use. It's Podium. They help us collect reviews, but they
I'm
also offer this.
very familiar with Podium from my time in retail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huge company. You wouldn't even expect like the actual like verticals that they're involved in.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of lawyer customers too, which is how I
Mm-hmm.
think I was referred to them. But
Yeah.
everything that I see come in, so most of the time, somebody will contact me from the website. It'll be a text message, and they'll say, they'll ask me a question about the service. Are you guys 24/7? Do you offer Spanish speaking? And I just respond. But I would say the amount of lawyers that come to the site, and because they come through on like specific blog posts that I write about legal marketing and trying to help people, they'll come to the site and just ask me questions about marketing. It's just in such high demand. And like part of what I do is content marketing and SEO. So
Mm-hmm.
I know firsthand, you know, a rough idea of the monthly search volume just around marketing for law firms. It's extremely high. There's such a demand for it.
Yeah.
So in order to really get good at marketing, I think you need a mentor. You need somebody to teach you the rules. And so I'm curious what you tell your customers and your clients about marketing.
Well, you're right about the demand for marketing. In my 20 plus years of programming, CLEs and other education, and in my work coaching, there's really two things that cause lawyers to engage other people for help, and it's time and marketing. And they're critically important. They're only like the tip of the iceberg, though. There's so much else that has to happen, but marketing is super important. And what I see, the biggest mistake that I see in marketing is probably two. One is the mindset around marketing, that because we lawyers have mental blocks around even using the word sales. Like, we use marketing as a euphemism for sales, but they're different, right? Advertising, marketing, and sales are different activities. But they somehow feel like that marketing is taking as opposed to marketing serving. So they won't, in a pandemic, I can't market it's a pandemic, or they'll find reasons not to market. Well, the rules of relationships are not suspended in a pandemic. That how we engage are different. So adopting the mindset from a marketing and sales standpoint that you have a valuable service to offer to the world, to your particular group of clients. You bring a perspective on it that is likely different than anyone else. And that perspective is value when you speak to an actual client. I mean, you know what an avatar is. And where lawyers struggle is they talk about themselves as a technician. They went to a great law school. They have a great law firm. We'll fight for you. You can trust us. And like, yeah, that's what everybody says. So congratulations. And then what? So adopting the service mindset, and that goes over to the second thing, is there really aren't, I'm still resisting this idea of focusing a practice. We used to talk about it as niching your practice. And that's very uncomfortable for many lawyers. So I like to talk about it a different way. It's, what are the problems you solve, the specific problems you solve, and who do you solve them for? Well, and my favorite one of my favorite examples is, well, I do wills in estates. Good for you. Nobody actually wants that. What they want is what they get as the result of having that. So what the problem they want to solve is how to protect their daughter against their future ex-son-in-law. Like, that's the problem they're trying to solve. So when you are really clear on right, when you're really clear on the problem and the person you solve it for, not anybody, somebody, business people, entrepreneur, but really specific, then that unlocks this power of marketing, especially now in a digital world, without even spending money on advertising. You know exactly who you're meant to serve. And I saw it on myself early. Just today, we're getting ready to move. We're bought a new house, so I need to find a closing lawyer, a real estate lawyer. So I got 3 names from the bank. First problem, there was no contact information with the guy sent me. So I looked the first person up in the town, and their website was experiencing WordPress errors. Like, okay, next on the list. That was it. Nope, not even going there. The next firm, decent website. The first thing on their list was real estate. Real estate, estates, and family law was their 3 things. Okay, check them out. Then there was another firm. Well, real estate was at the bottom of the list. They did criminal law, personal injury, criminal law, and a few other things. Which one do you think I called?
Second one.
Yeah, because I'm looking for somebody specifically for that problem. And I don't want to be last on somebody's list. And if they can't even make their technology work, I don't want to talk to them either. So I'm a specific avatar. And this is how customers make decisions. And what we teach is how to do that, is how to get really clear on the problem you're solving and who you're solving it for, and how they talk about it, so that everything else you do in your marketing is following that lead. And even if somebody decides to do paid advertising or SEO, they need to know the answers to those questions. And where they normally, I see them starting is, well, I need a website, or I need to buy ads. Okay, what are you going to say? So being smarter, especially now when you can't be face-to-face and you can't market by random acts of cocktail party conversation, you've got to be much smarter about what you're doing, and allow yourself to focus. When I decided, I can serve lots of people. I have lots of different clients. When I decided to focus specifically on lawyers, and specifically on lawyers who have been in practice at least for 10 years and who run their own firm, who's a relatively small firm, 5 or less, and who are tired of accepting the same old. They don't want to wonder what if. They know they need somebody a guide, just like an athlete would have a personal trainer, and they know it's not a mistake, it's not admitting failure. That's the specific client that I look for. That's what guides my marketing. And I think that every lawyer can be just as clear, because when you pass through that door, you see how gigantic the market is.
I always go back to previous guests, and I think it's always cool to learn something from someone. But I don't know if you know Andy Stickel. I always talk about him.
I don't know him personally. I see what he writes.
Yeah, I guess I don't know him personally either. Only over Zoom. But we had done a webinar basically at the onset of the stay-at-home order, and we were just talking about. So he called me the night before, and he's like, "This is what we're going to talk about. This is what I'm going to ask you about. Do you have anything else you want to do?" I'm like, "No, it's cool." And he's like, "And then I'm just going to open it up to questions, and we're just going to we're going to figure it out. We're just going to answer questions live." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. What could go wrong?" And so I don't know why. And kudos to him for this, because this was his idea. This was his brainchild, but so many people signed on for this webinar that I think people couldn't get in. So it was like over 1,000 are in this webinar.
Wow.
And it's at the end. We've been talking for an hour. And people are starting to ask questions. We opened it up to questions, and the questions are just coming through. And he's picking the questions. Thank God, because I was frozen like a deer in the headlights. So he picks this one question, and this woman says, "How do I market my firm right now? I do wills and estates, and I don't want to prey on people's fears." And I say this every episode. You're not preying on people's fears. You're here to help them. So this practice that you're talking about, of, to me, what I call it is establishing my mission statement. You know, what am I really here to do? What's the thing that breaks your heart about what you do, right? And once you figure that out, it sort of takes away that, you know, I'm selling, you know, and I had that for a long time, because I started in sales here. So I would call people and I would try to get them to sign up for the service, and people would be like, "Why should I do that? Why should I do?" Oh, and I would tell them all the reasons that they should do it, but I never knew my reason why I thought that they should do it. And when I sat down and I realized that what I'm really doing is, and I hope, because I give lawyers a choice, right, is I enable them to do like what you're talking about. I enable them to go to their daughter or their son's dance recital, and put the phone in their pocket and not worry that, their business is ignoring their customers. I help people cash in on their advertising dollars so they're not wasting their hard-earned money by letting these calls go to voicemail. And for a lot of lawyers, to find out your why, right? I'm helping give people peace of mind that if something, God forbid, should happen during this pandemic, that my family will be taken care of. They
Mhm.
won't have to scramble and find a way to have a funeral for me or a ceremony or
Yeah.
what have you. And so it becomes so much easier to get your message across, like you're saying too.
Well, and when you believe in what you're doing, and I love Sinek's, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You can speak about it with authenticity from the heart, and then you're getting to where people really make decisions, because not one person makes a decision to hire another professional, especially a lawyer. They don't do it logically. They do it subconsciously, and that comes out as an emotion. I feel connected to this person, and then they justify it with logic. And lawyers market with logic, but that's not how people decide. And when you're coming through it, you're really clear on, I'm doing this kind of practice, not just to make money, but I really care about this. Like in your example, I really care about protecting the wishes of people when they can't speak for themselves. And that's why I do estate planning. And here's my story. That creates that visceral connection. But you have to believe it, because if you don't believe it, people can tell because they have a pretty good BS detector. And so if you're just giving them a sales pitch, they'll know you're wasting your breath. But when you are passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and that the problems you're solving are important, then it's not selling. I mean, I don't feel like what I do is selling. I believe I have a special talent. I believe I have to get it out there in the world. Not everybody's going to pick me, which is great because I can't handle everybody. But there are people that are going to be good fit for me. And if they're a good fit, then, and they see it too, I can help them get where they want to go, then great. And if not, I just want them to get help somewhere, because this is a pretty lonely business, and it doesn't have to be.
I love that. So one of my favorite stories that I've encountered is I am so unbelievably inept at using Google Ads. I can't do it. I've always been good at SEO. I'm good at content marketing, digital marketing, advertising, what have you. For whatever reason, if I touch a Google Ads account, it is doomed to fail. Research, anything, no matter what I do. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So I sought out professional help from an agency, and I've been with like 2 agencies so far,
Mhm.
and somebody local reached out to me. His name is Murray Levine. I love this guy. And I was skeptical. I was like, I'm a pretty big company. I don't know if this guy's small business that's
Mhm.
local can help me, but I'll hear him out. He seems genuine, and he just wants to he wants to chat. And like I'm getting to the BS detector part of what you're talking about, because I get on the phone with this guy, and he is, Murray, I love you, but if you ever watch this, he's kind of corny, right? And
Yeah.
he's super nice. And usually to me, that's like off-putting. I'm like, okay, get to the point. You want to do
Mhm.
business with me. You want my money. Let's talk numbers. Let's do this. Admittedly, I'm from New York, so I guess that's how we operate.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, I want to tell you a story. A number of years ago, he's an old man. Sorry, Murray, you're old. He's like, a number of years ago, my wife and my family and I, we owned a movie theater, like a small movie theater.
Mhm.
And, we were only able to have like two movies playing at the same time or whatever he had. And, when AMC and Lowe's and all of them came to town, he's like, I completely went out of business. I couldn't compete with their prices. They had more movies. They had just everything better to offer than what I did. And really what they did was they completely outspent me in marketing. If you went online and you looked up movie times,
Mhm.
they were going to go to Lowe's. They were going to go here. They were going to go to
Mhm.
all these other places because I didn't have the wherewithal and the ability to compete with that. And he's like, and so years later, when I found out about Google Ads, to me, I saw a great opportunity to really level the playing field between small companies and big business,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because all the keywords cost the same. It's very
Mm-hmm.
affordable.
Yep.
And if you
Yep.
do things right and you get your message across, people don't care about the size of the company anymore. They want to do
Right.
business with the person who's got the best story, who's got the most genuine, they care, they're able to help you, and you're a good fit. And I still am with this guy, Murray. It's been, I don't know. He would have to tell me. It's been a couple of years that I've been with this guy, and I've tried everybody from like the number one result that you
Mm-hmm.
can get with the ads on Google, because my thought was if you type in Google Ads help for business or whatever, and you're not number one on the ads, that like
Right. Exactly.
I thought that was like a logical conclusion, right? But it's so true, and I think storytelling gets lost, and people are so caught up in the, well, I win all my cases. I have a 99.9% win rate. I'm tough. I'll fight for you, and that can be part of your story. But if you're not getting across that why, it's going to be really hard to even get to that point of succeeding in your marketing.
Yeah. And a big part of that, I mean, nobody actually wants to hire a lawyer. Let's be honest, right? If they could find any other solution to their problem, they would probably take it. So you have to find a lawyer. And when you have to find a lawyer, you're handling a big, hairy, scary problem, whether it's buying a house or a divorce, or even in corporate world. When I was in corporate, your career's on the line. So what the lawyer marketing does is like, look at my success rate, look at my facts. It ignores the human. And the human, even if they don't want to admit it, is scared and they want to be heard. And so the more, it's not just, it is the why, it's also how you connect, so that when that person comes to you, they feel heard. One of the ways I coach some of my clients who are litigators, who are very much, this is the way you do things, is actually kind of improving the emotional intelligence you need to connect with a client. Because the fact that the client can speak for 10 seconds and you can know the answer doesn't mean you're going to get the client if they don't believe they've been heard. And that is such a soft skill that's not taught, that it's almost like magic when somebody can become aware enough of their own habits and have some strategies to just do things a little bit differently. Nick, it's why I love working with lawyers, because we've got all the skills necessary. They're just kind of locked in these contexts and compartments. But when we can bust those open, they're like, oh, you mean I need to connect with that client like I would try to connect with a juror? Yes, try that. And it works. So that's what makes it so fun. And there's such potential. I would work with another litigator. He said, well, I only know how to be a litigator, back when I was doing career coaching. And I'm like, oh, come on, dude. You know how to solve problems. You know how to persuade people. You know how to analyze. You know how to write. You know how. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I do. It's like taking the Lego blocks apart and putting them together in a different way. So the problem with marketing and lawyers, they're just so focused on themselves and competing with other people that they're not as focused as they need to be on their own people, on the problems they solve, and their own unique voice in the world and their own value proposition. I mean, you talked about lawyer marketing. There's who knows how many people out there in the world who are trying to help lawyers with marketing in all different shapes and sizes. They're not my competition, because I bring my own unique perspective and our tools and skill sets. And if I'm a fit for people, that's great. There's plenty of work to go around. And especially when you reach for a trainer or a coach or a guide, you have to have that personal connection. I look forward to my clients. I won't just take anybody that walks in the door, virtual door, I guess, because I don't have an actual door. Mm-hmm. There has to be that connection. And as a marketing guy, that's what you're trying to create in marketing, right?
I think you're 100% right. And I don't know why I'm thinking about weightlifting today, but I had the same experience with I had a coach, obviously, because I think
get
if
hurt.
I think if I didn't have a coach, I wouldn't be able to walk. And I say that because I would have broken my knees. And I think I learned a lot from him in that, there has to really be a fit. And he was not at all a wealthy guy at all. I think very few people go into Olympic weightlifting expecting to get rich. And he would turn business away, you know? And I was in my teens when I was hanging out with him. And I never understood that because I at that point had such a drive and ambition to amass wealth. And I was like, why would he turn that person away? Why is that? It's because they weren't coachable. They weren't listening. They weren't showing up on time. They weren't respecting his time.
They weren't ready.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. And they're damaging equipment, and at that point it becomes a detriment. So, it's all about finding the right fit. And I hear lawyers talk about this too, is, like Andy Stickel talks about this, is he helps lawyers not only get new clients, but find the clients that they want to work with. And there's a difference, you don't just want to work with anybody who comes through the door. You want to help people who, you might relate to their problem, for whatever reason.
I talk about it as ideal clients, A-level clients. And sometimes I get this funny look from lawyers, like almost like an ideal client's an oxymoron, like, jumbo shrimp, right? Like it's not even a thing. But Andy's right, and you're right, is that the holy grail is not just more clients, because more clients if they're not the right clients, if they don't pay you, if you're not set up for them, they will kill your practice. So more clients isn't the answer. More of the right clients is the answer. And a right client has to have more than a pulse and a checkbook, right? It has to be somebody that is your person, which is why it's the problem you solve and the people you solve it for. But then instead of clients taking energy from you, you're getting energy by working with the clients. You're doing exactly the work you're meant to do. You're getting paid what you're worth. You can actually look forward to going to the office because you're doing your life's work. I mean, somehow I managed to find that for myself. That causes a problem with work-life balance sometimes, or work-life integration, because I still love what I do. So yeah, it's investing that time so that you're putting people around you, whether they are your coaches, your guide, your associate, your employees, your clients, who are not sucking the energy out of you. And yeah, because the law is exhausting anyway, right? You can work for a great client and go through the end of the day and be exhausted. But wouldn't you rather work with people who you feel good about and who feel good about you? Because that's not what we taught lawyers. I mean, we're not even allowed to say you're a specialist, for goodness sake. So we got to dance around these rules that are there, but there's a way to do it so you can connect with your people.
I like what you were saying before about being able to celebrate. And I think what we're talking about now is finding clients that you're willing to, not willing, that after you help them, you're able to celebrate, right? But running out of time here, so
okay.
I don't want to ask you the number one thing that you would tell attorneys. I don't want to ask you that. What I want to ask you is, what's the most top of mind thing that you've got going on right now that you think would be the most helpful to attorneys listening to this right now?
The number one thing that I've got going on, I think, Nick, it comes back to this this iceberg that above the water is the time management and the marketing, and there's so much below it that you need to run a practice. And so it's reaching out and helping lawyers understand that the law is a business. It's okay that it's a business, and there are things you have to know how to do. Yes, the marketing is important. We just spent a bunch of time talking about why marketing is important, and we have our 3 strategies that cost nothing to implement. And you have to manage your time and your energy, but you also have to know how to run a business. So if the thing I have working on is that was a good sentence. That I have working on, the thing that I'm doing is reaching out to lawyers to understand what their issues are and trying to help them identify what's the unique path for them. Because my vision is, my journey, as I described to you about an hour ago, was really unique. And every lawyer's journey is really unique on what they want to accomplish and why they want to accomplish it. And so I'm looking to connect with those lawyers who are really just ready to not settle anymore and not tolerate anymore and want to make this year, this next year, the very best that it can be. I actually had one client, I just found out this morning, he increased his income 37% in a pandemic. That's something to celebrate. So I'm looking for more of those things.
That's awesome. Doug, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I am going to include all of your information and all the descriptions on wherever you're watching this or listening to this or reading this. Who knows? But
yeah, I want to invite people to, we'll include a link in the show notes to a strategy call. If somebody wants to have a conversation, I'm happy to do that.
Absolutely. And be nice to this man. He is wonderful. Doug, thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it. And I think everybody else is going to really enjoy this episode.
I enjoyed spending time with you, Nick. Take care.